Good day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
In Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
From Studio Colorado, I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Daily Tech News Show Live is made possible by you, the listener. Thank you, Ken Hayes, Philip Shane, Paul Boyer, and everybody welcome two new Patreons. Everybody welcome Andrew and Sierra. Andrew, Sierra, welcome in.
Welcome, Andrew and Sierra. So good to have more of you. And welcome to everybody to DTNS Live. This is the show where we discuss the tech news to help us all understand it a little bit better together. Shannon Morse, how are you doing? How's the weather in Colorado?
Oh, we're getting snow. It's so pretty.
Yeah. I was thinking about you. I was like, I think Shannon probably is in a winter wonderland right now.
Pretty much, yeah. My dog loves it. She's part husky, and she is enjoying it.
Cute.
What's it like to have weather appropriate to the month you're in?
I wouldn't know because we get blizzards until like April, May.
Okay, yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah, Colorado is kind of one of those states, right? Where it's like, it's -2 and then 50.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
-2 and then 60.
We're
You
like
never
super
know.
close to the sun, so that does happen.
Well, we're also very close to tech news, which is why we're all here. So let's get started without further ado.
Forbes, they got sources, and those sources talk. And this time, the sources are saying that Meta is in discussions to acquire South Korean chip startup Furiosa AI, with a deal potentially closing as early as this month. Meta is reportedly among multiple companies interested in the deal. Everybody wants people who make chips for data centers and large language models and all that kind of thing. This acquisition could help Meta's custom chip development efforts, of course, amid the ongoing NVIDIA chip shortage and, of course, increasing demands for alternative solutions.
Apple introduced the Powerbeats Pro 2 with active noise cancellation with transparency mode, personalized spatial audio, and an H2 chip for better efficiency with Apple ecosystem integration. The company says this is the first audio product with heart rate monitoring that can sync with fitness apps and also with Apple Health. Battery life is also up, and the Powerbeats now support both Qi wireless charging and USB-C. $250, and they're launching online today and in stores February 13th.
Beats always makes really good stuff. BYD founder Wang Chuanfu says the company plans to make all of its cars self-driving, including the Seagull, which, if you translate the price to US dollars, is $9,600. They note that autonomous driving is an essential tool, not a luxury, at least according to BYD. Company's in-house God's Eye system uses cameras and radar and powers features like valet parking and adaptive cruise control. You want a little insight into why BYD isn't available in the U.S. market? Listen to yesterday's DTNS briefing where I talked to Bodie Grimm about just that.
Kickstarter is rolling out new tools for backers and also creators, including something called Pledge Over Time, which lets you as a backer split pledges into 4 bi-weekly payments. It's available now for select campaigns and expanding to everyone by spring, so says the company. Improved search and discovery tools also on the way, and creators will get new add-ons for extra perks, better shipping management, and a streamlined tax system.
BuzzFeed is launching a new social media platform to encourage positivity and accuracy, which would help with the positivity, I think. It's using large language models to help achieve that goal with some creative tools for users as well. BuzzFeed hopes it will encourage self-expression and connection. Good luck, BuzzFeed.
Yeah, good luck. Sony announced an upcoming presentation to showcase the next selection of PlayStation games. The presentation will be held on Wednesday, February 12th, 2 p.m. Pacific, that's 5 p.m. Eastern, and will feature a, quote, creative and unique selection of exciting games from studios around the world. All right, let's talk about YouTube and how we all watch YouTube. So YouTube CEO Neal Mohan revealed that TV screens, meaning large TV screens, the ones that you have in your living room, have overtaken mobile devices as the primary way Americans not everybody necessarily, but Americans watch YouTube, solidifying its role in the new television category. So unlike traditional TV, YouTube offers interactive features like shorts and podcasts and live streams. Didn't always do that, but YouTube has definitely been expanding its roster. The platform continues to dominate streaming, regularly ranking number 1 over Netflix. That's according to Nielsen's Gauge report.
This is not surprising to me because I've been watching this coming because I co-host a show called Cord Killers with Brian Brushwood, and we've been noting the increasing rise of people watching YouTube in a lean back situation versus like a mobile situation. But I really do think it's cementing the idea that YouTube is becoming television for more and more people, probably more in the younger demographics than the older demographics. But I think the older demographics may be leading the change into watching it on a big screen more often than the small screen. Don't you think?
Yeah, and I just in case anyone's unclear, I am a YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube on a computer. I really don't watch YouTube on my big screen. I subscribe to YouTube TV, which is, a cable alternative, a cord cutting cable alternative, which is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about YouTube. We're talking about, okay, is there, a show, a stream, a short, anything that you might want to watch. And yeah, it's not just like a little thing that you watch on your phone for 5 seconds type thing. It's something that you settle in. Everybody gets popcorn, watch a show, watch a movie, watch all sorts of things. Shannon, where do you fall on this?
As a viewer, I am one of those people that watches a lot of YouTube on TV. And I don't know if it's a generational thing or if it's just because of the type of content that I like to ingest, but I definitely have been doing quite a bit of that, especially if I'm like cleaning the house or I'm doing the dishes and watching it on my big screen, whatever it might be. But even as a content creator, I have seen a change in my analytics. In fact, last year, my general analytics for TV viewing was about 18%. So it was a decent amount, but it's still kind of small, especially compared to mobile. But this year it's 30%. And I just checked that number yesterday while I was working on a new media kit. So I was kind of blown away that the increase was so large from year over year, just with 1 year of a difference. 18 to 30% is a big deal, especially for content creators. So in my opinion, content creators need to consider this, especially for long format videos, which is usually what I watch on a TV as opposed to a mobile device, and make sure that you're kind of forming it for a slightly different audience now. It's a different audience and how they're viewing it and how they're watching it, like adding in QR codes whenever you want to mention a link now, instead of telling somebody to click down below because they can't click on a television.
Yeah, right.
It's interesting you say that because I personally, myself and my family, which includes my kids, watch YouTube primarily. No, when people say
yes.
family, but
they'll be happy to hear that. Yes,
that my watching of YouTube as my primary content on my big screen TV went up 300% as soon as I got my Shield TV. And the key reason is that navigating YouTube on that is so much easier. It both accepts voice input. So if I need to search for something, say I need to find Shannon Morse's latest, phone video, I can say that. It'll pop up and it'll bring it up. If they make the search easier to access on a big screen, it becomes the friction drops way down. And so I think maybe over the past few years, so much of the new functionality of YouTube being integrated into TVs, whether you buy it, from Costco or off Amazon, it's integrated. And so there isn't too much of a barrier to access. Even doing something as simple as having a Google Chromecast built in, you can just find something in your phone and just send it over, which is what my kids started doing initially. And now they just use the remote to the Shield and they ask the Shield to bring up a video that they want to watch.
I think the kid aspect cannot be, overstated, right? Like, YouTube is saying like, election coverage, the Olympics, something like a festival like Coachella type thing, the Super Bowl, all stuff that people want to watch on YouTube on a big screen. Very true. I was babysitting for a friend's kids a couple weeks ago, and it was sort of like, bath time, afterwards it was like, I had been given instructions like they can do like an hour of YouTube, and they have their own account, so it's going to be just stuff that, is pre-approved for the kids. I think that's where a lot of this watching is coming from. It's kids watching TV. On YouTube.
It's one of the great pacifiers for any newborn parent. I used it when my daughter was like
the
one
parents
because,
were newborn. I assume
oh no. Like when you have a newborn.
Yeah, newborn parents, that's problematic.
Like before,
okay.
you would have all these things like to occupy their time, but it's like, hey, look, it's Blippi. Oh, hey, look. It's,
well, I mean, this was us watching Sesame Street.
Yeah.
I mean, same idea, right?
And the content is long enough.
You sit down and the kid is like focused.
And the content is long enough, or if you have a playlist, it just goes through, and so you don't need to do anything.
That's what happens with my nieces. Is they want to see videos, they want to see a playlist, they want to watch stuff that is short actually by television standards, but long by mobile standards, right? So somewhere in that 15-minute range, 20-minute range, and there's limits placed on how often they can do that, and they're not of an age where they're allowed to start it on their own quite yet. I think the older one probably is getting there, but I don't think it's just kids, because we have started making
kids.
YouTube our first stop when we sit down at television. It went from, oh, you can watch YouTube on TV, that's interesting, to like, oh, I don't know what else we're going to watch. Let's see what do we got on our YouTube, to like, we start with YouTube because that's where shorter things are. Yeah. And we'll like, oh, I only have 15 minutes before I have to go somewhere. Let me just watch this vlog, or let me start this thing. And there's a wider variety of interesting stuff there too than there is on Netflix. I think the YouTube algorithm is better at showing you things.
And the variety is ridiculous. Like, back in the old days, we would channel surf. We would just sit there with our 80 channel cable subscription, just find something on. Now you could just say, hey, I want to know how to make a good eggs Benedict dish, and put it up. Or, hey, I'm having trouble with my
refrigerator. Or you don't even have to say, hey. It'll just show you like, oh, I know you like watching restaurant preparation videos, Roger. Here's the latest one, right?
And just last night before we went to bed, my wife and I were just like, hey, I want to watch all the funny news bloopers from the 80s. And I just I did a voice command, popped up, and there was just a bunch of bloopers.
I mean, that's
from
the beauty
80s.
about YouTube, right? It's like whatever you want, like whatever strange specific genre you're looking for, it's there. I remember when YouTube launched, before Google bought YouTube, and it was like, I know, that's how old I am. I know. But we all remember that. Okay. All right. Fine. But
we do.
but it was sort of like, I don't know, just like uploading like home videos, skateboard video. Like it was,
right.
It was something very different. And I think I probably have come around a little late to the game in that there's a lot of stuff that you can watch on YouTube. Like I've watched like full, feature films, 2.5 hours on YouTube, no problem. But I still don't really think of it as like my go-to place because I have other, avenues to do that. But clearly, YouTube realizes that a lot of people are doing that. This is we're sitting in the living room and watching content on YouTube instead of Netflix or somewhere else.
I will add, like when you're. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Roger.
I was just going to say, like, when you're in the living room, oftentimes your TV isn't just a TV. You have, like, a nice sound bar, maybe a subwoofer. So if you're listening, like, hey, I want to watch a new music video, the experience feels qualitatively better than if you were watching on your phone.
Yeah, we do it for music a lot. I forgot about that till you said that. Like, we'll just put on a music video, and the algorithm knows what music we like, and it just keeps going.
Yeah, and it sounds better than, as great as my Pixel 6a is for sound, it's not that great compared to like, a sound
It's
bar.
like
and a
what
subwoofer.
Vivo used to do, but now like who's using the Vivo app? I don't even know
Yeah,
if there is a Vivo
all
app
Vivo
anymore.
stuff is on YouTube.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I think
true.
for a while they
Yeah.
were thinking maybe we can get it away, but they haven't. So
I literally start thinking of Vivo as a channel and not like that separate thing.
I think most people probably do, if they think of it at all. Yeah.
How do y'all feel about watching shorts on televisions? Because given the format of shorts, it just looks so odd to me. I generally skip every single short I see on my television when I'm watching on that big screen.
When I'm looking at a subscription, like they never really come up in my algorithm on the main page. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like I'm like, oh, I wish these wouldn't clutter up the subscription because I don't want to watch them on TV. I want to watch them on my phone.
I get a lot of them because my kids love them. And they
love
it because
I get a lot too.
Age group separation.
It's a big, colorful picture instead of a tablet right in front of them. And then they can do things like throw pillows at each other while it plays in the background. Right? So they get
But the short's only a minute long. How long?
But that's the great thing. They just rotate to the next thing that they've already just
Hey, Tom, throw a pillow at Aline. You'll only have a minute. It'll be fun.
Perhaps you've forgotten the joys of having no
responsibility.
responsibility, but throwing pillows is a lot of fun.
Good point.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. All right, let's move into automotive for a minute. Jeep drivers are reporting there's an ad that keeps popping up on the in-dash screen that simply will not go away. Doesn't sound fun to me. Tom, explain what's going on here and why it might not be that bad.
No, it's awful for the people it happens to. And there's a vigorous discussion about this in our Discord. That's actually still going on right before the show. There are very few good, reliable sources about this, unless you go directly to like Reddit, where people are talking about their own personal experiences, which is fine. But Car Scoops was the place, and they've been around for like 12 years covering car stuff. They're a good bunch of journalists over there. They were the one place I found where I'm like, okay, they're going to do a good job of balancing this story and not just saying everybody's mad and Jeep and Stellantis are awful. Turns out what's happening is a pop-up ad is coming up for all Jeep users that says, hey, wouldn't you like to buy this extended warranty? It says purchase peace of mind. For most users, if you say okay or click the X, it goes away and it doesn't come back. The other option would be to use Bluetooth to make a call and buy it right then. They're really just trying to get you to be aware that it's available. There are some users, though, where there's a software glitch and it doesn't go away. So you can imagine how annoying that is, right? Like you can dismiss it, but then when you get to the next time you stop, because it shows up when your car is at a complete stop, it comes back. And no matter how many times you dismiss it, it keeps coming back. So I get that if that's happening to you, it's annoying, but Jeep and Stellantis, their parent company, are saying this is not supposed to happen. It's a software glitch. What did they say? Our team has already identified and corrected the error, and we are following up directly with the customer to ensure the matter is fully resolved. So I guess there's a software update that folks have to get to try this out. But do you think the outrage is appropriate? You know, like I get it. If this is happening to me, I'm really mad, but it seems like every person I'm seeing is being like, I don't even know if I believe it's a software glitch.
You know, I do think maybe it might be a little too much outrage, but I also can understand if it's a recent model that someone spent a lot of money on. You want things to be sort of perfect and not to be glitchy, and it just I can see it being.
This is an inconvenience that you that you have to like make it go away every time you stop the car. Some people are like, it's a safety issue because you can't see your navigation. I'm like, I don't know if I'd call it a safety issue. It's not great, but
I mean, cars are at an all-time high for new car prices, and I think this just goes. Honestly, if this was like a Jeep that someone picked up for a very inexpensive price, they probably wouldn't have noticed at all. It's like, I spent $10,000 instead of $50,000 on this.
I don't know if I agree with you on that. I feel like it doesn't matter how much people spend. If the company, it's the fact that the company is pushing something at you, right? It's that advertising aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, nobody likes that.
I don't either, Sarah. I'm the same way. Like, I don't like it. And I also disagree in a way, Tom. I do think of it as being maybe a safety concern. I know it's only supposed to pop up when you're at a full stop. And so far, it seems like that's the case. But even when you're at a full stop, you shouldn't be distracted by things that are popping up on your screen. And like generally in my Hyundai, that doesn't happen. So like for a
it doesn't happen to most of the Jeep users either, but fair
so
point.
So it does sound like it most likely is a glitch, and I would also be concerned, like, is there any way for pop-ups to happen, like if somebody else got access to these kind of operating systems and made pop-ups happen while you were driving, like while you had your foot on the gas, which obviously again is not the case here, but it does bring up these issues and these thought processes. And I just hope that everything gets fixed for the people who are experiencing this.
I mean, that is a totally fair concern about, could people get access to this and cause pop-ups to come up and it would cause distraction, but that could happen anyway, right? Like that could happen to any system. It's merely that they have a software glitch that's causing the opt-out to not stick. That's the problem here. But it's not. I don't know. I don't think this is any more subject to that kind of intrusion than any other system, really.
I do feel, on the other hand, that there is a qualitative experience diminishment with it, where people just. I mean, to be honest, if it was something else that was non-functioning in your car, like say the windshield wiper controls were a little wonky or something, you feel like, man, this shouldn't be happening. It's a relatively recent vehicle. Why is this an issue?
That's true. Anytime something goes wrong in the car, you get annoyed.
When Consumer Reports deals with car complaints, one of the things that's often brought up is the infotainment system. Even though it doesn't mechanically affect the drivability of the automobile, people notice it.
It's about the experience.
Yeah.
You're going to be in the car for a while. It's not just like, go for gas. There's a lot more to it.
I just wonder how much to blame Jeep for making a software error, right? Like usually with software errors, you're like, okay, how bad was it? Did it cause damage? Well, this didn't cause damage. It's a distraction. And Shannon makes a fair point. Maybe that is somewhat of a safety issue, but did they fix it? Yes, they fixed it, right? They didn't just leave it and go like, we don't think it's a problem. So I don't know what else to do other than be perfect. Right? Never have software.
And to go back,
no
why
technical
giving you
company is going to be perfect.
Well, also, so I don't have a Jeep. I have a Volvo, and I am overdue for my regular maintenance, which I'm supposed to do every couple of years. And under my speedometer, I get this little notice like reminder. And then on my infotainment system, which is all touchscreen, it's like I can go into the Volvo this is what the company wants you to know about stuff. This all feels like on Jeep's side, it could have just been something like you get a little something, not a big pop-up, just a little reminder, and then you can go in and see what the company is hoping that you do. Does sound like in this case it was a glitch, but even if it was something like, Volvo is going to keep reminding me that I am overdue for regular maintenance, and it does not hinder my ability to drive. It doesn't make me feel unsafe at all.
But that's part of the function. That's part of the maintenance routine for your car. That's like, hey, Sarah, your car needs to be needs an oil change or whatever. This is just like,
but whatever it is,
this is trying to sell you something.
Yeah,
whatever it is, like the if there was a pop up, I would have a very, very different reaction.
That is the other thing. This pop up is very large. It covers almost the entire screen from the screenshots I've seen. It could be designed to still catch your attention, but not block so much of the information on the screen. I don't know if that makes much of a difference, but when it comes up, and you can dismiss it. That's the other thing. It's not like you can't get rid of it. It's just annoying to have to do it every time it comes up if you're experiencing this glitch. But it does cover the whole screen. It could be better designed.
Maybe it's part of Stellantis' new ad-supported model.
That's what everybody's saying. I say that's the joke, but some people aren't even joking. They're treating this as if it's like, oh, they're covering your experience with pop-up ads all the time. And I don't have any stake in defending Stellantis or Jeeps or anything else, but it doesn't seem fair to be like, oh, because you're a car company, you must never make a mistake. And to me, they've done the things I could think of to correct the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it will determine whether or not someone keeps the car. I mean, like, I had this issue, not this issue. I had an issue with my 4Runner where the infotainment system would automatically reboot every 15 minutes or so, and it was annoying because you would have your music, the music would play, the system would reboot, and the navigation, so all of that would disappear, and then it would reboot again, and it was just like, why does it keep doing it? It took about 2 years until Toyota actually issued a firmware update that I had to download, stick on a thumb drive, and update the unit. Yeah. But it does qualitative. It's obnoxious.
I totally think it's fair if this is happening to you to say, I never want to buy a Jeep again. And that's a big deal because Jeep culture is pretty strong, right? Maybe that's why they're getting so upset. But if this is not happening to you, should you not buy a Jeep because of that?
I mean,
because it probably won't.
Yeah, because exactly.
It probably won't.
No, I will jailbreak it.
Yeah, exactly. There's also that. There's so many workarounds,
buy the car and
right?
jailbreak.
Shannon's like, let me at him.
In the hyper-competitive market that is the automotive market, it's people like Now maybe I'll go look at a Chevy Blazer.
Fine. Yeah. I'm watching our chat. Everyone's like, my Subaru, there's all of these. Find a car that someone hasn't come up with a controversy around. That's why is it smart for you as a shopper to not buy a Jeep because of this?
There are plenty of reasons not to buy a Jeep outside of this.
Exactly. If you don't want to buy a Jeep, it should be for another reason because you don't want a Jeep, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's software. Not perfect, as we all know. And folks in our Discord are having a lively discussion about this as well. If you would like to be part of the Discord conversation, we'd love to have you there. Link to a Patreon account at patreon.com/DTNS. All right, Shannon, you have been looking at a lot of foldables lately. There is a new foldable smartphone that claims to be the thinnest of them all. What do you think?
Ooh, Sarah, I'm so excited about this phone. But also, I do have some concerns. It looks amazing, but I have concerns given that it is supposedly, so Oppo claims this thing is the world's thinnest foldable, like ever, which is pretty insane.
So this is the Oppo Find N5, right?
Yes, this is the Oppo Find N5. It's the
N5.
newest N5. Yes, it's the newest foldable from Oppo, and it's going to be coming out on February 20th. So we don't have a lot of information yet, but what we have seen and what we have been able to see under embargo currently is the screen off. We've been able to see it with this almost creaseless design, it looks like, on the front of it. And it's so thin that it barely has space for a USB-C port on the bottom of it. It looks so thin. So it's exciting because one of the biggest concerns with foldables is the thickness of those designs, and it feels pretty bulky in the hand. Like I currently have on my desk a couple of foldables from Google and Samsung, and both of these, they're thick boys. So having something that is as thin as what the Oppo Find N5 is going to offer us may give people an interest in foldables when they haven't currently had one.
Yeah, I have a Pixel foldable. It's the original, so it's a couple of years old now, which would make it the thicker of them. It's not chunky, right? Like if you put it next to an iPhone with a case on it, they're pretty close to the same thickness. The Pixel's maybe a tiny bit thicker. So the N5 being that much thinner, like as so thin that there's nothing else but the USB-C port. That's thin. That's thinner than the phone I have in my hand. That's a modern, like a current version iPhone. That's impressive. What are your concerns though? You said you had some concerns.
I do. So with the thinness of this and with like the USB-C port only having, I don't know, less than a millimeter of metal in between itself and the back of the casing, that could raise concerns about the durability of the design and how bendy it might end up being, given that you usually have to have some kind of thicker metal, like especially with the newer titanium designs of premium smartphones. What is this one made out of? We do have a few specs that are currently listed, like over on gsmarena.com, and if these are accurate, it looks like a really nice flagship premium device. But of course, again, this isn't releasing until the 20th, so we don't have all of the under embargo specs yet, but we will have those in the next week or so. But yes, I am very concerned about the durability. The screens have oftentimes been an issue, especially if you accidentally bend it too far. A lot of people have had issues with their screens ended up being damaged if they bend it too far for some reason. So you have to be very, very gentle and very kind of dainty with your foldables, or you can damage them quite quickly. So having something that is this thin, it does raise those kind of natural concerns. Yes.
Do you find that perhaps maybe it's too thin, where it's difficult to hold or grasp compared to the other foldables that you've used?
I'm glad you mentioned that. So last year, I got to test out in hand this other really, really thin foldable. It's the Huawei Trifold. It's this Mate XT, and it bent out. It was like an accordion style almost, where you had two different bends in it, and then you had three different edges to the foldable. So it kind of bended out in that sense. And it was an extremely thin device. It was almost like holding what could I compare it to? Something that was extremely thin, but it was
like a credit card thin.
Almost like that. Maybe like a very small stack of credit cards. And in the case of the Oppo Find N5, they have stated that it will be the same thinness when it's unfolded as 4 like ID cards that are stacked up together. So that's going to be around the same as this Huawei Mate XT. So yeah. So I have found, like, when I was using that one, I was a little scared that I was going to drop it, even more so than my normal foldables, in a sense. And I don't know if I would feel the same way about this one. Probably would.
Does the size impact the longevity of the battery, like in terms of how many hours you can?
The size. Oh, like the size of the screen?
Yeah, do we know the battery
or
life?
the size of the thinness?
The fact that it's thin means it doesn't have as much space for the
yeah,
battery, right?
we don't know anything about the battery life. Currently they are saying that it will be 5600 milliampere hour. That's what's reported, but we don't know exactly
But that's not confirmed.
how long the battery life is going to last. I suspect that it won't last as long as some of the other devices on the market that are, your regular candy bar phones, but they are also introducing the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite SoC to this one, and that's a really, really high efficiency system on a chipset to go on a phone. So I think that will help with battery life, and hopefully they'll have some kind of like heat dissipation that works really well, even though it is such a thin device, especially when unfolded. In my experience though, newer SoCs, especially the ones that are coming out this year, even in foldables, have been exceeding my expectations when it comes to benchmarking them in things like 3D Mark. So I do have the same expectations for this device as well.
Oppo doesn't come to the U.S., so
Yeah.
anybody who's not in the U.S. doesn't care because they'll be able to get it. You can import it. You can buy it and have it shipped to you in the U.S. It just doesn't go on sale with carriers and stores here. So if folks want to get it in the U.S., they're just out of luck.
No, you can import it. You would probably have to pay customs and taxes and fees like that, of course, as well as international shipping. So that can raise the price, and that's something to consider when comparing to the flagship devices and carrier deals that you might get here in the US with your current contracts. But with that said, you can import them into the US, and you can run them on some of the carriers here in the US. But keep in mind, you would want to purchase one of the ones that is global, not one that is specifically released for a specific carrier in a specific country, because you will run into issues with the bands that different carriers are using. So you want to make sure that when you put your SIM card in, it will actually get connected. And when it comes
the
down
radios
to that,
aren't always the same if they're not global.
exactly. Yeah. When it comes down to that, the best thing you can do is like contact your carrier and ask them, hey, this phone runs on these bands. Will it work for if I put my SIM card in there? And generally they'll be able to tell you yes or no, but you might be able to get them at a good price. A lot of these global market devices, the premium flagships that I've tried, like the Oppo Find X8 Pro, that was like 750 or 800 USD in in comparison to the global marketplace, like what you could find it overseas. So if you can find this device for a good price, like it's competitive. It's very competitive compared to what we get here in the US.
What about BBK Enterprise or BBK Electronics owning Oppo and OnePlus? I know a lot of times if you just wait, whatever came out for Oppo eventually comes out for OnePlus. What do you think the chances are of that?
Yeah, so Oppo and OnePlus, they're basically sister companies because they're both owned by BBK Electronics. And we've seen time and time again, Oppo will come out with a device, release that device or announce it. And then a few months later, or maybe 6 months down the line, we'll see a lot of the specs basically copied and pasted from Oppo over to OnePlus. Now, you might have a few differences based on like regulatory powers in the US or in the global market, certain things that can't be released in different marketplaces. So you might have a difference there, like the chipset might change. That's been a big thing between the UK and US markets. Mm-hmm. So you might run into those issues, but generally, if you do wait, we do find that we get very, very similar options on OnePlus, and OnePlus is available in the US market. So I would suspect, my theory is that we will see OnePlus come out with another foldable device, maybe later this year, that is extremely similar to this one. And hopefully it's just as thin, because I think that would be really cool.
So you're saying we might have Oppotions.
Oppotions, yes. I would hope so.
Yeah.
A potion.
I would love to see it.
Or at least one more Oppotion, but one plus the option. Yeah.
All right, Roger. We started with TV, talking about TV at the beginning of this program, and we're gonna go back to it. So, Business Insider reports that 4 industry insiders familiar with Netflix's strategy says the company is exploring potential deals with podcasters. Tell us more.
Yeah, so some of these industry insiders and on based on what they know, they see this as an effort. This effort as a sign that Netflix is becoming more open to working with creators, whether it be podcasters, YouTubers, and creating more content for the catalog, Netflix's catalog. Now they've already done deals with YouTubers, the Sidemen and Ms. Rachel, and two people familiar with the matter said that Netflix previously looked into a possible deal with Alex Cooper of Call Her Daddy fame. Now Cooper ultimately went with SiriusXM, but it shows that Netflix is very interested in either acquiring the people behind the podcast or the podcasts themselves. Now, Netflix has been very much aware of how YouTube has fast become what we were describing earlier, sort of the living room entertainment focus piece of most people's homes, and as being sort of the top platform for many podcasts as well. So they see that as a model on which they could also glom onto, perhaps creating more content or getting more content for Netflix, but at a substantially cheaper price than if they had to produce something either in-house or contract out with someone else to do either like a scripted drama or even an unscripted show, and so it's just another evolution of, I think, their content strategy. What I'm curious to know is, what does that look like? Does that become just, a standard crime podcast that just shows up unchanged where all you get is a video of someone speaking into a microphone as they talk like they do in the podcast? Or is it going to be adapted where now they have a little more money, maybe not as much money as a fully scripted show, but then they could do things where they add like images or, little bits of animation to describe various things in the podcast? Or would they go for something like DTNS Live and just have that as
I
its
see.
own?
I was like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like it's obvious what they're going to do, but you were trying to sell the show, so I support you.
yes.
I support your analysis.
Yes. Our DTNS Live, a ready video, 4 amazing personalities.
Yeah.
Just ripe for adaptation or
I was wondering about this because I'm looking at this Business Insider story, and part of me thinks like, are they just inventing a story here? Because Netflix has turned podcasts into TV shows before. We know what that looks like. Song Exploder was a show that was turned into a Netflix show, and it seems like a lot of the examples the Business Insider gave are YouTubers, not podcasters. So to me, it's like, yeah, everybody is doing this. Like everyone in the industry is looking for talent and combing through YouTube and podcasts and saying like, oh, is that a good show idea? Is that good talent? Let's see if we can sign them up and make a show that gets listeners. I'm not sure what's new here that Business Insider is reporting.
Well, one of the interesting things you just said, Tom, is like, is it a YouTuber or a podcaster? And
well, that line is blurring, right?
yeah. I mean, what we're doing right now,
Hello,
we're
YouTube.
we're podcasting, but we also offer a version of the podcast on YouTube. And there are many podcasters who are not YouTubers and vice versa. But yeah, that line is blurring.
Yeah. So to me, the story is Netflix looks for more content. Like
Netflix wants
Yeah.
people to watch things. On
Yeah.
Netflix.
If Netflix spins out a bunch of Netflix RSS feeds for individual shows, that'd be then they're like definitely open.
Business Insider did even kind of hint at like that being a possibility. I don't think Netflix gets into putting out RSS feeds. They want people to watch Netflix because you have to pay to watch Netflix. But I don't know. I guess that would make it into a more interesting story if they did that. I just don't see that happening.
Because they could
potentially put together an RSS feed that was a very fun experience for $2 a month type thing.
I mean, Netflix has podcasts that they put out in support of their shows, right? So they sort of already do that. I guess they could put out a Netflix app kind of like they do with games, where you can only get the podcasts in the Netflix app and you have to log in with your Netflix subscriber.
Right.
I'm
So
not sure how successful that would be, but that's also not what's being reported here. The big story is that they're finding independent creators and signing them up. And it's interesting that they're doing that again, I guess, but it's not like the first time they've ever done that. Certainly not the only business that's doing that.
I would be
And
really
I would be
curious-
happier when they do it to me, of course, but yeah.
Oh, that'd be nice. I would be very
Shannon's
curious
listening.
about how they would go about releasing content from like private entities that are normally producing content for YouTube or for podcasts, because you usually see like episodic podcasts come out once a week, but with Netflix, even with their like internal produced shows like Love is Blind, different shows like that, they'll release them in batches, and then you can watch like the first episode through episode 3, and then the next batch comes out 2 weeks later. So I wonder if they would do the same thing with
They do
YouTubers.
release some shows on a weekly basis, so they could do that. My guess is they're just adapting these, like Roger was saying earlier. They're turning them into a Netflix version of the same content versus being the content. In which case, they probably just release them in big batches, like they usually do.
Like if they had a Shannon's World where it's all like Android phone reviews, right? They could potentially help you set up a shoot, and you record all of those ahead of time, and say 8 episodes over the course of a month and a half.
Yeah, but that's not what they usually do. They usually just recreate a show, and Netflix, either produces it or a production company.
Well, the
hired or
idea could
something.
also be that they produce something in house and they have it, and then they eventually release it onto YouTube in order to kind of extend its lifespan while kind of keeping the interest alive.
I don't think they do that though. I mean, they could, but we've never seen. You almost always when this happens, they do a modified version, like with Song Exploder. They do a modified version that is suitable for the format versus just replicating. Because Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu, none of them want to just have the same thing you could have found elsewhere. They want it to look special and new.
Well, definitely. But if they were the original, or at least the first point of release for that original new content, couldn't they eventually just sort of kick it down, or would they just try to keep it all?
Yeah, but they never. Why would they do that? If people want to watch it, they should subscribe. Is the way they're going to think about it, I think.
Definitely. I don't know. DTNS Live, Netflix.
That's really why Roger is talking.
I mean, honestly, come on. Come on. Are we not? We've all been on TV before at some point in our lives, right?
That's true.
Granted, I was 30 years younger, but, age is a number.
You mean now you're 30 years better?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Like a fine wine.
If I was serious about self-reflection, I would say, I don't know, but I'm not. So
Are
I was
you
like,
not?
yeah, I agree with you.
General. Roger's like, self-reflection. Who does that?
Yeah.
What if
I mean, that could be a Netflix show, though. Netflix featuring me.
Self-reflection with Roger Chang. Premiering.
Watch Roger
February
get signed
13th.
by Netflix, and the rest of us are stuck here.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't forget
On
us.
reflection.
Roger's like, on reflection, I won't be inviting you to my yacht this weekend. Sorry.
Oh boy.
You never
All right.
believed
Well, speaking of yachts, you might be planning some travel in 2025. Many folks are thinking ahead about that stuff. And if you do plan on doing a bit of traveling this year, Chris Christensen has a useful tip about making backups of your documents before you go.
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. When you're traveling, it is useful to have with you, in a safe fashion, electronic copies or pictures of some important documents, like your passport, any visa that you needed, maybe your driver's license, but also things like your credit card, front and back. In case of loss, you would have both the credit card information as well as the number to call. Other things you might keep would be prescription for medications or for your eyeglasses, your travel insurance information, and possibly your vaccination record. I keep that information in my secure vault in 1Password, but wherever you keep safe documents with you on your phone is a good place to do that. Take the documents that you need to keep safe. And this is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
That's always good advice. Thank you,
smart.
Chris.
Good tip. Yep, that has saved me more than once.
We also got an email from Jesus with some thoughts about freemium ad models. We were talking about it in relation to games on Monday's show. Jesus writes, there is a freemium racing game, Asphalt Legends Unite, that I like to play every now and then. I first came across it on the Switch, then found it available on basically every platform. It lets you create a cross-platform profile that keeps all the devices you play in sync. The Nintendo Switch and Steam are the most enjoyable to play. Neither has ads, just the option to buy card packs in the game. The mobile version is what I use mainly to claim the free every 4-hour card pack due to the My Phone is Always With Me convenience. Another benefit of allowing ads in the ad card packs, which are basically free card packs that unlock by viewing ads instead of waiting or spending real money. The bad ads on mobile are the ones that you may be forced to sit through after completing several races and before being allowed to continue racing. This is the type of ad you mentioned disliking, and is the main reason I prefer to race on the non-mobile systems since they don't have ads. Steam understands this is a nice feature for the consumers and thus increases loyalty if, like in this case, you have a choice of systems to play in. So, yeah, I thought this was interesting where he's like, I don't want ads on my Steam version, but I don't mind them on mobile because it's easier to deal with them and it gets me free stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely certain games on at least on Android that do occasionally want me or make me want to throw my phone against the wall because the ads are so the freemium model is so baked in that, like, all right, dude, like, I mean, to be honest, the guys that make Asphalt Legends also make Asphalt 8, and that's one of the more egregious ones. It's fun when you get to play the game, but in between when you're modifying your cars, there's so many upgrades and there's so many things like, hey, you can buy this. Like, I get it, but I'm not buying it. Just let me upgrade the car with the measly points I have and let me get to the next race. What can you do?
Well, you can send your comments to us. That's what you can do. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com.
Indeed. Well, Shannon Morse, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Let folks know what you've been up to lately and where they can keep up.
Oh, well, now that I've been recovered from surgery and I'm back home and I'm recording again, I made this video. It's on youtube.com/Shannon Morse, and it's all about the honey alleged scam. I say alleged because there's currently a bunch of court cases going on around this. But if you have downloaded honey to get coupon codes on your browser, you might want to watch that video to get some insight about how they allegedly might have been scamming everybody.
Yeah, because scam, if anybody's like, wait, why are you being so weird? Scam has a legal definition. And
Yes.
if you say someone is a scam and it hasn't been proven in court, then they can also sue you. So you gotta be careful about that until, if and when such time that something is proven as a scam.
Exactly.
Yes, it's very tricky. Well, during the show, people have not been scamming us. They've been loving us with titles and submitting them at dtns.showbot.tv. We've got a great number of titles over there. If you're ever watching live, you should watch live. We're on YouTube. Not on Netflix yet, but we are on YouTube. So go over there and watch live and then submit some titles at dtns.showbot.tv. We have a tie right now. Ryan in Minneapolis with Shorts Belong on Your Body, Not on Your TV. Or on mobile. And Batfig 2001 with Jeep On, Jeepin' On. Also, Saray, Self-Reflection by Roger Chang. Now on Netflix.
I feel like we're all just like very thoughtfully thinking about these. Like,
Yeah.
good show title.
I would
Good
watch
show
that.
title. Yeah, I would
Yeah,
watch
good
that.
show.
Yeah.
Title or
Good
not.
show title.
Zoe Briggs Bacon with Appropriate Outrage. Is this appropriate? Ad-supported cars from Larry in Atlanta. DTNS now on Netflix. Lyle Gawk just manifesting it. Like, just make it the title, and then it'll come true. And Nick with a C. Foldables, now with less chunk.
That's funny.
Sarah, what did we end up going with?
We ended up going with, drum roll please, The Thick and Thin of Smartphones from Sarah TW.
Excellent.
Very to the point.
Very to the point. Sorry, I was distracted because Nick with a C was telling me that he submitted, or BioCow submitted, Jeep, standing for Jarring Entrepreneurial Experiment Exploiting Every Electronic Existence Possible.
Oh, wow.
It's an
That
acronym.
is fun.
That is
I like
amazing.
that.
How did that not have more
somebody-
votes?
Yeah. Right. Jeep. It's like the new mustard.
That's right. And then someday Jeep will be on stage at the Super Bowl. Big thanks to everybody who supports us. We got folks watching us on LinkedIn. We got folks watching us on YouTube. We got folks watching us on Twitch. No super chats on YouTube to talk about today, but lots of folks supporting us on Twitch. Chaz Basden resubscribed for the 54th month. Ryan Minneapolis resubscribed for the 15th month. Possum42 resubscribed with Prime. I am all set with the new Patreon feeds today.
Yay.
Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Possum. I'm glad that's working. If you're a patron, we have separate RSS feeds for everything now. It's in beta, so if it breaks, we're sorry. We'll get it fixed as soon as possible. Patreon will work on it with us. But yeah, that's the thing people have been asking for. Theater Monkey resubscribed with Prime, said again and again, free money. Theater Monkey, also the person who runs our Twitch channel. So he's giving himself some money when he does that, which is smart. Captain Patriot for the 9th month. Glad to help support the show. We had a hype train. Zoe gave us bits. Thanks to everybody for supporting us in all the ways you can, including David and Gary giving us a Patreon raise. Thank you, David and Gary. Woohoo. I'd say, what did we do to deserve it? But I like to think it was this that we did that is why we deserved it. So thank you, David and Gary.
Indeed. If you're a DTNS supporter, and you know if you are, we'd love for you to extend your support for us with lots of good stuff in our store. If you go to dailytechnewsshow.com/store, there's a lot of good stuff. So we got mugs, we got t-shirts, new t-shirts, mouse pads, the new DTNS Live logo, all featured. So this is very exciting. I'm wearing one of our, I guess we would call it vintage DTNS hoodies at this point, but boy, do I love this. So yeah, it's fun to wear DTNS gear, and if you want to join us, we'd love to have you rock our wear, and maybe have a conversation. Next time you go get a coffee and someone says, "What's that shirt all about?" You could tell them we sent you. They're great looking ways to support the show. Thank you in advance. Also, thank you in advance for watching us live. We do it Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That is 2100 UTC. You can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. This was a great show. Thank you again to Shannon Morse. We're back again tomorrow talking about maybe the return of E3. Scott Johnson will be here to explain all. See you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.